If any man had a daughter who was finer than the prince's wives, and who found favor in his son's eyes, the girl and her parents should be killed. When the wise village palm wine tapper and his wife, who had a very beautiful daughter, heard this, the mother thought it was not safe to keep such a beautiful girl, as the prince might fall in love with her. So she told her husband that her daughter ought to be killed and thrown away into the bush. Mkpume was a very powerful king with a great influence over his subjects. He had a son named Ozonna, to whom he gave 5 young girls as wives. But the prince did not like any of the girls. The king was very angry at this, and made a law that if any man had a daughter who was finer than the prince's wives, and who found favor in his son's eyes, the girl and her parents should be killed. When the wise village palm wine tapper and his wife, who had a very beautiful daughter, heard this, the mother thought it was not safe to keep such a beautiful girl, as the prince might fall in love with her. So she told her husband that her daughter ought to be killed and thrown away into the bush. The palm wine tapper, however, was unwilling, and so he hid her daughter until she was 18 years old. One day, when both the palm wine tapper and his wife were away on their farm, the king's son happened to be hunting near their house, and he saw a bird perched on the top of the fence round the house. The bird was watching the beautiful girl and was so entranced with her beauty that he did not notice the prince coming. The prince shot the bird with his bow and arrow, and it dropped inside the fence. So the prince sent his servant to gather it. While the servant was looking for the bird, he came across the girl and was so struck with her form that he immediately returned to his master and told him what he had seen. The prince then broke down the fence and found the girl. He fell in love with her at once. He stayed and talked with her for a long time until at last she agreed to become his wife. He then went home but concealed from his father the fact that he had fallen in love with the beautiful daughter of the palm wine tapper. The next morning he sent some items to the wine tapper. Then in the early afternoon he went down to the wine tapper's house and told him that he wished to marry his daughter. The wine tapper saw at once that what he had dreaded had come to pass, and that his life was in danger. So he told the prince that if the king knew, he would kill not only him, the palm wine tapper, but also his wife and daughter. The prince replied that he would be killed himself before he allowed the wine tapper and his wife and daughter to be killed. Eventually, after much argument, the wine tapper consented and agreed to hand his daughter to the prince as his wife. Then the prince went home and told his mother what he had done. She was in great distress at the thought that she would lose her son, of whom she was very proud, as she knew that when the king heard of his son's disobedience, he would kill him. However, the queen, although she knew how angry her husband would be, wanted her son to marry the girl he had fallen in love with. So she went to the wine tapper and gave him some money, clothes, yam, and palm oil as a further dowry on her son's behalf, in order that he should not give his daughter to another man. From that day onwards, the prince was constantly with the palm wine tapper's daughter, whose name was Ego. The news of Ego's relationship with the prince got to the king. The king, who felt disobeyed and belittled by the prince, sent for him. The prince came, and when he was asked if the news was just a mere gossip, told his father that he was going to take Ego as his wife. On hearing this, the king was very angry and first sent for the arrest of both the girl and her parents. Ego and her parents were arrested and sent into the prison. The king at this point sent word all around his kingdom that all people should come on a certain day to the marketplace for an important message. When the appointed day arrived, the marketplace was quite full of people. When the king and the queen arrived at the marketplace, all the people stood up and greeted them, and they then sat down on their throne. The king then told his attendants to bring the girl Ego before him. When she arrived, the king, who hadn't seen her before she was thrown into the prison with her parents, was quite astonished at her beauty. He then told the people that he had sent for them to tell them that he was angry with his son for disobeying him and taking Ego as his wife without his knowledge. But that now he had seen her himself, he had to acknowledge that she was very beautiful and that his son had made a good choice. He would therefore forgive his son. When the people saw the girl, they agreed that she was very pretty and quite worthy of being the prince's wife. And so they begged the king to cancel the law he had made altogether, and the king agreed. And as the law had been made under the elders' law, he sent for the elders and told them that the order was cancelled throughout his kingdom, and that for the future no one would be killed who had a daughter more beautiful than the prince's wives. And to that effect, he gave the elders palm wine and money to remove the law and send them away. Then he declared that the wine tapper's daughter Ego should marry his son Ozonna, and then made them marry the next day. A great feast which lasted for 30 days was hosted, and the king killed 5 cows and gave the people plenty of food and wine to eat and drink. The women brought a big plate to the king's compound, and their singing and dancing kept up day and night the whole time. The prince and his companions also played at the market square. When the feast was over, the king gave half of his kingdom to the wise palm wine tapper to rule over, and with 20 slaves to work on his farm. The prince also gave his father-in-law a large amount of money. So the palm wine tapper became one of the richest men in the community. The prince and his wife Ego lived a good and happy life for many years until his father the king died and he ruled in his place.